But I think of a poetry as people who sort of explore the grist of the subconscious, you know. And the problem with political stuff, it seems to me, is that you already know your political opinion, so it's so hard
Yes.
not to be didactic. And that's the problem
Yes.
with all the political poems we receive, or the vast majority, is that they're not really exploring. They're trying to relate something, and in doing that, they really end up being sort of more propaganda for
Yeah.
your ideology than poetry. So how do you deal with that when writing more political poems?
I I think to a certain extent, the ones that I end up believing in, um, they're made in a way that addresses what you're talking about. And I really like what you said. To me, I mean, there's this one of many cliched things we'll say about poems, but that people will say generally about art. In the making of it, if you don't surprise yourself, it's probably not worth a damn. There should be moments, hopefully a lot of moments, where you're putting down something that you could not have anticipated. You had no idea that was going to show up. And I think with politics, I mean, if you think of where many of us are right now, Trump bad. If that's the extent of what you want to say, you probably knew that going into the poem. There has to be this sense of not just discovery, but furtherance of your existence, an extension of your life and mind through the act of writing. A poem should actually make you a larger person, and that you see your mind reflected back, and you're able to have a conversation with yourself in a way that you wouldn't probably if you're just walking around the house going to get new tires. So I think the ones that work best for me, I have not sat down intending to write political poems. I think that's one of the advantages I have. Um, it's inherent to my approach that I almost never know what I'm going to write about. I just know I really want to write. So I go wherever the first few sentences take me. So if they go in a political direction, so be it. Well, just so happens this is one of the climate change poems. Genuflection, a song of climate change. If a forest falls and no one is there to catch it, if there is a last tree, last leaf, if clear cutting lacks clarity, if I am an accessory to murder, if a conditional sentence never finishes combing its hair, if a glacier dies in Alaska, if a glacier is killed in Iceland and buried at sea, if I like breathing, if I like coral, if I like liking the blue earth, if forests had lawyers, if trees were CEOs, if CEOs were angels, if an angel falls from heaven, comes to dinner, opens her chest, opens his mouth and stars pour out, if heaven rises, if heaven prizes canopy, understory, overgrowth, if appetite, if covet, if capitalism is suicide by comfort, if shrug, if will you look at the time, if I abet extinction, if I am an accomplice to poof, if trees are green engines out of every heart and lung, if clear cutting is our brains proving they are knock-knock jokes, if who's there, if too late, if a tree is planted, if a forest is guarded by the Secret Service, if another tree is planted, if a forest stars in the next superhero movie and the sequel and the prequel and ta-da, if breathe, if you, if Eden, if grace, if the apple is the word apple, if a species falls and no one is there to notice it is us, if I take a knee, if I die before I pray to wake, if I pray we wake before we die,